안녕하세요. 미하엘슈타우다허입니다. 독일 영화음악 작곡가예요. 오늘은 사이버 영상 아카데미에서 여러분들을 만나게 돼서 반갑습니다. The reason why I became a film composer is, first of all, I love composing, and also I love movies. And with music in films you can reach lots and lots of people, and there's another thing to it. You can actually switch between different musical styles. Whatever movie comes along, you have to write in another kind of musical style. First of all, film is a collaborative art, so everybody only contributes his part to the whole thing. And this is very important because it's not about your music first of all, it's first of all about the movie, and we should never forget that. So this is, only if we know about this, we can really help the movie with our music. And of course, we have also to understand that we have to do compromises in that case. We have to discuss with the directors and with the producers, and it's not about our music, it's always about the movie. That's the first thing we have to understand. The second thing is, what I often do is I go to the shooting right away, and that's because first of all, I want to know more about filmmaking. That's one thing. I want to show them respect for their work, because I also want to get respect for what I'm doing. And there's one thing more. I mean, if you go to the shooting, then the drama actually happens right in front of your eyes, and that's something which you cannot review again. The only thing you get is a video and in 2 dimensions. So, but there the drama happens in front of your eyes, and that's very impressive to me. I studied film composing, or film scoring, so to say, in Los Angeles at USC, and it was a really hard program there. We had 30 hours in a week, and with film composing, film arranging, film orchestrating, film conducting, and analysis of film scores. But I really learned a lot there, and maybe the most influence I got from composers like Ennio Morricone especially, and also John Williams, Jerry Goldsmith, and many, many others. But especially Ennio Morricone influenced me the most, especially his natural shape of melodies. They are really beautiful. I must say, maybe he's the Mozart in between the film composers. First of all, of course, somebody has to be a good musician. and he has to have talent for composing, not only in one specific style, but in so many different kinds of styles. It also helps if when he or she can play different kinds of instruments. He or she has to have a good music education and a good sense of drama. Somebody has to feel when a special scene needs music or when it doesn't. And there's something else. People have to have good communication skills, so that when they're talking to directors and producers, they should be able to talk about music with non-musical terms. So they shouldn't use any technical musical terms in that case. We always have to try to help a movie and to support the drama. And if we succeed in that, then this is a big merit. And I mean, there's nothing comparable to sit in the movie theater, the lights go out, and your music, your main theme is introducing the movie and is already setting the tone for the overall movie. There's nothing comparable to that. Also, sometimes people come up to me and say, "Oh, listen, I really like that score, or I really like that music in that movie," and this is also something which can make really happy. Of course, in the beginning, the most difficult thing was the language. But on the other hand, music and also film has a very international language. I mean, films from Hollywood, for example, can be watched and enjoyed everywhere in the world. So I think there is not such a big problem speaking of music in the movies. So I guess I could do music for all kinds of movies in every part of the world. In fact, it's more like when directors and producers work with me, with a foreigner, then they hope that something different, something new can actually be taken out of that. And this can also be an advantage, not only disadvantage. I think there are not so many differences between Korean film scores and other film scores from other countries, and the difference is getting less nowadays. Of course, in the last 10, 15 years, especially in Korea, the MIDI was used a lot. So maybe that's because of money reasons. But nowadays, many people use natural instruments again, whether it's an orchestra or a big band or whatever, and mix it with MIDI. If they need special sounds which other instruments cannot make, then they are using MIDI. That's also the way I use MIDI. in my last two scores I didn't use any MIDI because I really wanted to try out any orchestral sounds and flavors as much as I can, and I really wanted to show that there are many possibilities of sounds in an orchestra, millions of possibilities. So in the 60s and 70s in Korea, orchestra was used a lot in Korean movies, and then came the synthesizer time, and everybody thought it's much cheaper to do a synthesizer score, but it's actually not, because if you really want to do a really good synthesizer score nowadays, you need lots of people, you need lots of gear, and you need lots of time to figure it out in the computer to make it really sound very well. But if I don't like a special sound in the orchestra, I just go and say to this guy, please change that sound to something else, please mute your trumpet or whatever with a special mute, and then we try that out, and usually it works out fine. Of course, the Korean culture and other cultures are different, but like I said in the beginning, music and film has an international language, and I really don't try to make my music more Koreanized. I don't try to do that. I just write in my style. That's the only thing I can do. I mean, of course, I can switch in between styles, and I can switch a little bit, but I don't see only the Korean audition as the audition for that movie. And I think that's also the opinion of many directors and producers who want to spread their movies not only in Korea but also to other countries of the world. Maybe in Asia, maybe in Europe, or wherever. So, for example, 중앙전, although this is a very Korean movie, and especially with a very Korean music, I don't think that the intention of the director actually is to only for the Korean public. I think, especially this director, really wants to promote Korea, of course, in other countries, but also to make just a very enjoyable movie for every person in the world. So music and film has a very international language, and that's good so. Usually I'm involved in movies, in a movie project already early on, so usually before they actually start shooting. And then what follows is, first I want to try to really understand what the movie is about. So I read the script, and sometimes I also get a Conti, which really helps a lot. A Conti is actually also the script, but already with all the drawn cuts in it, so that in discussions already with the director, we can say, okay, let's put in music from here, from scene 53, from the 6th cut until the 12th cut, or something like that. So what comes out of that is a cue list with all the music which will be in the movie. That way I know exactly how much music it will be. That way I will know what kind of music the movie will need, and already how much money about the recording will cost. So this is very important to have this information early on. Of course, sometimes the end product is different, but it's not so much different. Usually it's about 80 to 90% correct already at that moment. What comes next is I have to write the main themes. It's usually not only one main theme, sometimes there are more than one main theme involved. For example, for Indian Summer I had one main theme for Lee Shin-young, for the woman who was accused, a very sad theme, and one theme actually expresses the very breakable short love story between her and her lawyer. So, and with this material I walk through most of the scenes in the movie, and sometimes I also need some special new music stuff for other scenes. The busiest time for me is actually when I get the final edit of the movie. From then on I will have to finish the whole music, which means I have to make it synchronized to all the scenes so that it fits completely, and I also have to do all the orchestrations. Actually, I don't have to do that myself, but in my case I really like doing the orchestrations and the arrangements also myself, because this is kind of like the fingerprint of a composer, and I really love to do that myself when I have the time. Sometimes if there is not enough time, then I just can't do it. Then I will need somebody to help me orchestrate. With the finished music, I go then to the recording stage and record the music. There it will be mixed in 5.1 surround sound and also in stereo for the soundtrack album later on. Then I come back with a master tape, and it will be dubbed with the production sound and also with the dialogue, and hopefully this mix and this dub is a good one, and then everything comes out well. This is a very important question, and it's about, first of all, should there be music in this scene or not? If there should be music in that scene, what kind of music should there be? And what should we do with that music? For example, if there is dialogue, then in a dialogue scene, those are the most difficult scenes, because we really want to hear the dialogue, of course. And for example, if we use instruments which have about the same tone range like the voice, like the human voice, then two things can happen. One thing is we cannot hear the voice anymore because it has the same flavor. But there can also happen something else. For example, I heard from one case where a high cello part actually in the movie enhanced the somehow weak voice of a woman. So we really have to try that out, and but somebody has to be very careful, especially with voice-over scenes, which means when we cannot read the lips of the people. In Indian Summer there is a scene when Park Shin-young, actually the actor, actually eats ice cream. And he's talking. He's talking and he eats ice cream, and we see him from far away. We cannot really see him. He's really far away. It's a long shot.
무지하게 더운 날이었는데 그렇게 먹고 싶은 거예요. 하드는 녹아서 흘러내리지 먹고는 싶지. 정말 미치겠더라고요. 참다 못해서 오늘 흘러내린 걸 핥아 먹었어요. 근데 이놈이 나와서는 빈막대기만 들고 있는 걸 보더니 난리가 난 거예요. 내가 다 먹었다고.
And if I do a lot with the music there, you will not be able to hear what he's saying, because you already have trouble to hear what he's saying, because he's eating ice cream and talking. So I have to be very, very carefully just to set some kind of musical mood in the background. Maybe just a single tone piano melody with very slow string stuff, and that's exactly what I did. So I just set a musical mood in the background, and it did work like that. But it's very difficult. So far, I must say I was pretty lucky. With most of the movies, I was very satisfied, and also with the final version. Of course, there were always things which had to be discussed and stuff. With one movie especially, I still have my problems, and I still think it could have been done much better, not only in a film way, but also in a musical way, if there would have been more time. What I said before was the most important time for me is when I get the final edit of a movie until the recording date. So for Indian Summer I had 17 days, which is fine. I can do it. It's very short, but it's okay. You have to think about like a symphony. A film score is like a symphony, and you have to write it in 2-3 weeks. Also, the same was for Madeleine. I wrote the score for Madeleine in about 14 days. I finished the score in 14 days. Of course, I started composing before that, but that's the most important time, because there I make the music fit as much as possible to the movie. For double agent, for Ichungan job, I only had 9 days. And now this is a very big scale, very important movie. It has a very good script. It has very good scenes in it. It has good actors in it and everything. But at the end, the release date was more important than anything else. So what I ended up was with 9 days. So I had to do it in 9 days. I had no choice. But I had a big orchestra, and I had to finish 23 cues, which is more like a big symphony, in 9 days. And I don't have like 20 assistants like Hans Zimmer does. I have 1 or 2 sometimes. So anyhow, I try to do it my best. But there are still lots of scenes which I want to redo and redo every time I see the movie. So I think maybe the most pitiful of my movies so far, which I really want to change every time I see it, is Double Agent. As I was saying in the beginning, film is a collaborative art, and we all have to make compromises. But of course, sometimes there are, at the end, the director has to decide. I mean, he will be responsible for the end product. He will be responsible for the film. So he will get also the heat when something is wrong. But on the other hand, I'm responsible for the music in a big extent, and sometimes we can reach a compromise and sometimes we can't. I just want to give you an example. For example, in Madeleine, the last scene, the music for the last scene in Madeleine, everything was settled. We went to America to record the music, and then I recorded that cue, and then the director went along, which is good because then he can say what he likes and what he doesn't. And he said the tempo of the music is too fast. He wants the tempo slower. But of course, if I make the tempo slower, then certain things will not be so in synchronization anymore. So what we had to do was a 10-minute break. My assistant and I, we were going over the score. We were trying to figure out with a slower tempo, how can we fix that scene that it still works? How can we fix that music that it still works with that scene? So we did that, and we recorded a slower version. We came back to Korea, and in the final dub, we tried this slower version with the picture, and we also tried the first recorded version, the faster one. And at the end, we decided, or the director decided for the faster one. So he changed his opinion again. So sometimes we find a solution, sometimes we find a compromise, sometimes we don't. Sometimes I can agree, sometimes I can't. That's just because it's a collaborative art, so it's not about my music first, what I said, it's about the film. But of course, in the worst case, sometimes I just walk away. I mean, sometimes I can only go so and so far. And if it's completely against my kind of plan, my kind of musical plan, then and if it's not fixable, then it's better not to work together. Especially for composing, it really helps me to go to a very quiet place. But of course, this is almost impossible in this huge city in Seoul. So usually I have to go to the countryside to find a really quiet place to get some inspiration and to get power again to compose. But there's something else. Korea is a very beautiful country, but it's very isolated. So, which means I have to, if I want to go out of the country, I have to take the plane. Which means that I don't go out a lot to other countries in a year. But still, I have to, at least once or twice in a year, I have to kind of get away from it. To get other impressions, also from other countries. This is very important because I want to compose as colorful as possible, and to get impressions of other colors or other impressions, I have to go to other countries as much as I can. But of course I can't because I mean I work here and you have to take the plane, so I do that usually twice a year or something like that. But what I can do is I go a lot to the countryside, I do a lot of walking in the mountains, and I go to the movies, of course, a lot. This also gives me a lot of boost, especially if the film music for the movie is good. I really hope that the Korean movies will make even more progress than they did so far, and also the Korean film music. I heard that a couple of movies which had a really big budget did not good in the last year, so that not many movies have been done this year. But I hope that this will change again, and that people always will enjoy movies. What I'm a little bit confused about and actually worried about is that only very young people are going to the movies. This is quite different in Europe, for example, where you can also find people who are older than 30 in movie theaters. You can also find them there, and sometimes people who are even older than that. So what I really would hope is that movies will impress also people who are older, and that not only young people will go to theaters. And on the other side, for the film music, I really hope that first of all, film people realize, and they do nowadays, they do more than ever, realize the importance of a good film score. That a good film score really can change and help a movie immensely. So I really hope that film people will understand that more and more, and that we composers do our best to make these movies more enjoyable. Of course, everybody has dreams, and if I would have not had any dreams, I would not be here. My dream was always to become a film composer, and I never gave that dream up. So that's why I'm here now. But about my other dreams, there is a saying in Germany which says, if you tell anybody your dreams, then they will not come true. So I cannot tell you the other dreams, but of course I have plans. And my main plan is, of course, to do as many movies as possible, and to do good music for good movies. That's something I really want to accomplish. So I never want to stop composing for movies, but I also want, of course, to compose my other music. I'm not only composing music for movies. First of all, I'm a composer, and so I have a plan to someday release a kind of solo album where I'm going to play piano, of course, my main instrument, together with other musicians, which will not be related at all to movie music. Just because I really love movie music, but sometimes when I compose, I just don't want to be influenced by anything else. I just want to express me, and this is one of my plans. Maybe it will happen. I hope so. And just keep going with film music. If you really want to become a film composer, then I just have one advice for you, and this is never give up. Of course, it's also important to go out there and meet lots of people, especially film people, and just become a very good musician, a very good composer. Learn a lot about drama and film, and especially learn from the best film composers that you can. that you can learn of. And if you are lucky, then maybe you are one of those who can learn actually from very famous film composers like I did. And so never give up. This is very important. So thank you very much. 감사합니다.